You're listening to episode 4 of Let's Talk ETC. I'm your host, Carlo V, along with my co-host, Dr. Christian Severino. I want to thank the ETC devs, investors, miners, users, and other community members for another great week. For those of you watching on YouTube, the ETC newsletter will be in the description below. There's a lot of great info in this week's newsletter. I kept the monetary policy proposal by Snaproll. I kept it in there since it's such a hot topic, still being discussed by so many different community members. We also have some info about the network issues that were experienced last Wednesday. We'll get into that more a little bit later. There's also a ETC event coming up December 13th in London. This one's organized by Dr. Avtar Sarah. So more info on that and will be in the newsletter as well. There's also going to be an interview from Chandler Guo in there and another article from Dr. Severino. This one's about smart contracts. Now, on to the main focus of the show tonight. It's about the ETC mining community, and thankfully we have two top-notch guests with us tonight. They are extremely knowledgeable miners, really helpful in the community about pretty much everything, not just mining, and just all around great guys. So I'd like to introduce special guest Randall, goes by Etherninja, and another special guest, Cory, and he goes by Cory VMCS1 on Slack and multiple other communication channels. How are you guys? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Doing good, thanks.
Doing great. Thanks, guys, for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really psyched to have you guys on here. And so I just want to, what we've been doing is kind of getting some community members on here and letting the community know their backgrounds and what's going on, and just kind of introducing different, really awesome community members to other people that are listening out there. So I guess we'll start with you, Cory, since you're first. What's your background and kind of how'd you get into blockchain, or what's your background in general?
So my background has always been in IT consulting, and I've always kind of been into, dabbling into, computers. And about a few years ago, I started learning about Bitcoin and how it works, and, started playing around with some simple mining things, doing a lot of reading and research. And I was just intrigued by the whole thing. It was just very different from, the regular fiat monetary system and how it worked. And it just blew my mind. So then probably in about 2015, I started a project of my own. It was called Influx. It was a X11 algorithm. Kind of was never really meant to go public with it, but it got a ton of community support, and it's actually still out there. Oh,
wow.
It's still out there on Bittrex, actually. It's INFX. So that really got me into the blockchain, and it actually forced me to learn quite a bit about it and start mining, X11. And then from there, I kind of fell into Ethereum, and I was, I loved the whole concept about it until it started to go south.
Right.
And then, honestly, and then ETC came about, and I have to say it is the coolest, most helpful community I've ever interacted with. So, I mean, there's tons of Slack channels and all sorts of things out there that have thousands of users, but it's just dead. And it's amazing that ETC has such a great community surrounding it, and everybody's helpful in every way. I interact a lot with Etherninja. He's a great guy. He's actually taught me a lot too about running a pool.
Yeah, absolutely. I see. It's both you guys. There's some others, but you two guys are like the pillars in there.
Yeah. We're just missing a lot of the miners. Not sure where. I think it's important for us to really capture the miners and find a way to draw them into our great community.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Ethereum moving to POS, we should be capturing quite a bit, moving forward. But that's a good point, and that's why I like to, there's certain staples that make up an entire community. That's kind of what I touch upon in like the beginning of the introduction of the show. The real core is like devs, investors, miners, users. If all of those things together kind of encompass like what the whole community is.
Yeah.
So Etherninja or Randall, why don't you tell us a little bit about, tell the people listening out there about your background and kind of how you got into blockchain as well.
Sure. I was introduced to Bitcoin, I don't know, it was mid 2013 from a friend at work, and immediately fell in love with crypto at that point. I was hooked. I've been in IT for 20 years now, primarily as a Linux engineer, and the complexity really got me going. So I worked with Bitcoin for quite a while, started mining. By that time, ASCIIs were pretty prevalent throughout the environment, but you could still mine script. So I was mining SHA-256, and I was also doing some script on some 7950s for a while. And basically, I watched Bitcoin go from $80 to, what was it, 1,100 something.
Yeah.
After that, yeah, it was exhilarating. After you feel that, it's kind of hard to let go once you see those kind of moves in the crypto market. But after that, I kind of had a falling out after the price kind of, hit bottom and rode sideways for quite a while. I decided to kind of drop out of it, bought some things on Overstock, read an article about Ethereum's pre-sale, and dumped the rest of it into that. So
no way.
Yeah. I'm a pre-sale. I bought some pre-sale, and as we got closer to launch date, Vitalik came out with some interesting games to play, and a lot of them were, how to take down the network. Well, I'm not an academic, so the idea of me being able to break something I thought was cool. So I got heavily involved with that. Also with mining the Olympic network and trying to take the network down. And there was also bounties, and I think I won 3 or 4 of them on the bounty reward. At that time, I didn't think it was a whole lot of money, but lo and behold, a year later, it's worth quite a bit of money. But I done sold it by then. I did have some concerns with the way, and I don't know if I should say here, the way the foundation was handling things. I understand.
No, this is open show. Say what you have to say. It's all good.
There was some distributions that went on that I wasn't completely comfortable with, so I had yet another falling out with Ethereum at that time. Then of course, I crawled back because I love the tech, and right. I got involved with writing smart contracts, deploying things. Then the DAO came about. Then that debacle, it collapsed. So that was strike 2. And then at first I was actually, I shouldn't say this, but I was in agreement with the hard fork. And after a while, I really thought about it and thought what the ramifications are of this fork and how it totally betrays blockchain principles and what blockchain is really about. So at that point, I was introduced to a few people that were, working with, opposing this fork. And I had a couple pools that weren't very successful at the time. And I said, hey, I could set up a pool for you. And when the fork finally happened, it happened to be one of the pools that stayed, at least for a little while. It was very exhilarating because it was under attack quite often. There was many times I was up, and I kid you not, I was up for 24 or 48 hours straight defending. It was bad. I mean, it was nonstop DDoS after DDoS. And that went on for quite a while, actually. And then it kind of led up as other pools started to get introduced into the ecosystem. So, but yeah, I'm an avid miner. I know how to mine. I've been doing it for a long time, but I'm also kind of a jack of all trades. I'm not a developer either, but I do know a little bit about everything, but not a whole lot about one thing. So
that's cool. No, it's a cool story about the constant attacks you were first getting in the beginning of the ETC. That's pretty wild.
I'm not 100% sure of the sources. There was no other pools at that time because sometimes, in the industry, I guess you want to say, pools like to attack each other. But at this time, I don't think the source of the attacks were coming from there. So I don't know who would be incentivized to do that, but they were quite sustained for a substantial amount of time.
Wow.
Right. I guess because you were the only one, you were getting like the full brunt of the attacks.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
You were going to say something, Christian? Sorry.
No, I was just that was an interesting story. I'd like to hear more about that. So you were attacked for being one of the early miners, and I notice a pattern with you, which is it seems like you're smart about getting into technologies in their infancy when the price is low, and then you stick with it when the price goes high. So maybe you should start an investment fund or something so we can give you money.
Oh, no, I'm not always right. I've been wrong before, believe me. I did at one time, I was very heavily involved with the WorldCoin community. It's one of the, I think they're still on the first page of CoinMarketCap, but they had a major scam. And, you know, I don't blame it on the community. I think it might have been some people from outside. But I think it's kind of hard for a crypto to really get ever past a major scam. And you know, Bitcoin did fine with Mt. Gox, but I don't think Ethereum is going to be in the same boat with the DAO. So that's just my viewpoint on it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I definitely think there's a major difference between scam and something that's poorly executed. So I think it's also important to draw that distinction. You know, wait, Cory, I guess how did you end up getting interested in ETC? I guess specifically, since you kind of gave us like your blockchain and your crypto background, but
so ETC came about. You know, I was mining Ethereum, and the whole hard fork came up, and honestly, I think it started from the DAO. When the DAO was launched, I remember seeing it on Poloniex and thinking, you know, it looks appealing. Should I maybe, you know, try and do something? And then my gut told me, I don't know, something just doesn't sit right about this. And I actually did not invest in it because I don't know, for whatever reason, it came out of nowhere kind of, and just seemed like it was just in your face. And, you know, I just had a bad intuition about it.
You remember there was I remember a couple days where on Reddit, it was like every headline or every other headline was about the DAO.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when it came, you know, in my opinion, I don't like bashing anybody, but, you know, I think Ethereum only really truly exists because of marketing. I don't think it really, you know, the Ethereum Classic community exists because there's a community that really truly supports and believes in, you know, after that happened with Ethereum, and, you know, I lost some money, but not a ton, and, you know, all the opposed the fork, and only a couple pools were, you know, advertising to vote, which, you know, it seemed like it was such a small amount of pools that were, you know, advertising, you know, this whole thing. It kind of blew my mind, and I was like, you know, I didn't like the way it was going. So as soon as Ethereum Classic came out, I'm like, wow, cool. I'm jumping in. And, you know, I wish I had been, you know, more involved with the pool type deal, but, you know, I've always been a miner, so I started mining. I have a small farm. I've probably got about 4 full rigs right now, mining Ethereum Classic. And, you know,
Cory, did you feel like me and Randall did? I know Randall said when he got disillusioned previously, he stuck with the technology because he thought it was cool for other reasons, and that's kind of how I felt. I was like, oh, the DAO hard fork is a bummer, but Ethereum is so cool. And then,
no.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it's, you know, a lot of people see Bitcoin or Ethereum or tokens. They see that is valuable to them because a lot of them only trade it in the market. But really, I think a lot of people miss what it's really about. And it's not really about the token or the coin, or it's about what it can do and the projects that you can build off of it.
Yeah.
And that's where the value comes in. And I think, you know, the dApps and, you know, all the smart contracts and being able to, you know, fully integrate them in the network, I'm happy to mine that. You know, I'm happy to push that along the chain and be a miner and be part of that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I built the pool too, because, you know, at the time when Ethereum Classic kind of went there wasn't too many nodes out there, so I figured I'd host a node here, host a node there, kind of help the network out, stabilize it. Then I decided to put a pool up and hash away at it. And yeah, I too went through quite a bit of attacks. It's from small to large, and I recently put up a couple nodes in mainland China so we could try to attract more ETC users.
Mm-hmm.
And within a couple of days of putting them up, I've probably already been attacked hundreds of times.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I linked.
It's a very different world out there, and there's really only like one pool aside from solo miners that are really pushing the limit there.
Mm.
So, hopefully there's going to be some more adoption. I've had, Carlo introduced me to a couple people on ETC China. Been talking with them. They're looking forward to potentially pushing, Ethereum out there more. And I think it's just going to allow us to get a broader spectrum. And, I'm really there to help the community for ETC. And that's what I love about it.
Now, I'm curious. I have a question. Why, besides being magnanimous, why would you two want to help grow the mining community? Because doesn't that mean less money, more competition for you guys?
That's a tough question. I mean, we're facing it right now. Obviously, Etherninja himself is, we've had pools running for a while. He's obviously had them for a long time, and miners are slowly leaving for whatever reason, or they come back. It's very hard to keep them as it is, and keep track of where they're going. But I think it's because there's not enough.
Oh, so you're hoping to attract people from small?
Yeah, what do you think, Randall? Sorry.
Yeah, my biggest concern is, well, really two concerns, is the hash rate distribution and the actual hash rate size. Right now, I think we're sitting about 400 gigahash. You can currently rent, 130 gigahash on a few cloud miners that could almost make up half of the entire hash rate of the network. So, I'm not only a miner, and a pool operator, but I'm also an investor, and I do have concerns about the security of the network and, whether it could be compromised with a 51% attack. And there's some other type of attacks that can be performed that I've mentioned before, with substantial hash rate. So, I would definitely feel more comfortable if we were over a terahash, because it would be much more difficult to rent something to orchestrate some sort of attack.
So that terahash. No, sorry. Go ahead, Christian.
Just in case anybody doesn't know, back me up on this, but people might think that because Bitcoin has a huge price right now that, I should mine Bitcoin, but it's much harder, right, to find the proof of work information on Bitcoin. And so just because a crypto coin has a smaller price, if it's much easier to mine relative to the, right, you could still make more money with the smaller price. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, it's all relative. I mean, it's how you do it. I mean, how much is your investment going to be to actually mine Bitcoin, to actually get something out of it? What are you going to have to pay if you're a miner to get it? You need terahashes and beyond. When it comes to Ethereum Classic, with 4 full rigs, I mean, right now Ethereum's down a little bit, but with 4 full rigs, I could easily, be pulling the same amount, if not more, of what I was getting on Ethereum.
Mm-hmm. Now, both of you did Bitcoin mining. Did both of you get the specialized integrated circuits to do SHA hashing really fast and get into all that?
Yeah, I actually have a few ant miners sitting in my basement collecting dust.
Okay. Is that because not
why
worth
are they
it
collecting dust?
That's because it was more to learn than anything. Because obviously, you can have 100 of them and you're not even going to get a Bitcoin.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, you need a substantial investment. With the latest, ant miner technologies, and an entire farm on the side of a mountain to churn, the kind of money that those guys are doing.
I see.
So you have the Antminers downstairs in the basement with the old N64, I guess, right?
Yeah, old Sega, Nintendo 64, you
Yeah.
name it.
Now the algorithm to mine Ethereum, the ETH hash, or however you want to pronounce it, it favors GPU mining versus the custom integrated circuits chips like Bitcoin does. Now, do you think I thought that was pretty impressive to do that? Do you think has that helped you guys?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love it because I can invest in a mining rig with GPUs and and I could split my farm up into 4 separate algorithms and mine at the same time and not only be stuck mining Bitcoin with a single algorithm. So it kind of helps me diversify my mining income and investments in moving forward. I mean, I use both NVIDIA that I've been testing with Ethereum, and I've also been using the AMD chipsets, the 480s, 470s.
Okay. So would you say that there's less danger with Ethereum and Ethereum Classic of somebody swooping in, getting a lot of investor money and making some awesome custom chip that's just going to blow away all the other miners?
I mean, anything's possible with the right amount of money, but I think it's so far out from that possibly happening. I don't see it any time in the future, if any. I mean, Ethereum's a great algorithm, and the way it's designed to work in the GPUs, it would probably kill an ASIC. Yeah,
and the reason is because it needs so much memory, right?
Correct.
To mine.
Correct.
And so it minimizes the importance of a fast CPU, and so that, in that sense, it helps people.
Randall or Ninja, what do you think about that? Do you see anything on a horizon, kind of battling it out with the GPUs?
Well,
technology-wise,
one of the benefits of the difficulty bomb was it allowed avoidance. And not only is memory expensive, but also no one's willing to fab a chip for $1 million for something that's only going to be around for a year and then go proof of stake. So ETC might have something to deal with in the future in regards to specialized chips. I don't know, but it is a possibility.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the technology cycle, or the people that may have been interested in a souped up, something to compete against the GPU, just didn't bother because of the bomb. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, I see. Oh, and also I wanted to touch on earlier. I wanted to ask about that terahash mark that you were talking about. Is that kind of like a psychological barrier, or an actual more of like a technical barrier as far as
I would think
a terahash of hashing power? I guess it's just difficult to get all of that together as far as the world is concerned to be able to 51% attack if you're over a terahash. Is that right?
That's correct. It's much harder to garner up that much hashing power to orchestrate some sort of attack.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
And the more,
go ahead. Go ahead and finish, Randall. Then I had a question.
Yeah, just the more hash you have, the more secure your network is overall, and that's the deal with. There's, in my opinion, 2 things that bring in price: the security of the network and the validity of its security secured over time. So Bitcoin's been around for how many years? 7 years, and it's proven itself to be secure. Ethereum's still new; it's still in its infancy. So, or ETC, its price isn't going to quite reflect that until enough time has vetted out all the issues. And also the hashing power that, that it would take millions of dollars in order to orchestrate some sort of, double spend or something of the likes.
Okay. The question that I had for both of you was, I know very little about the high frequency trading that goes on Wall Street, but I do know that, so they have these sophisticated algorithms that try to beat the stock market. And I know that they obsess about shaving milliseconds off the communication to the stock exchange so they can buy and sell a few milliseconds faster. I was wondering, in addition to having good GPUs, how important the communication is to the network.
I think latency is very important. When mining, depending on regional locations of your pool, it helps. I've seen, kind of a benefit to having a network and the uptime. The longer your miners can stay up, and in my opinion, the better it is to, not have a hiccup in the network.
I guess what I was getting at was, like, hypothetically, let's say I had a really awesome farm of GPUs, and so I'm beating everybody, and I'm finding the proof of work information really fast, but then my network is slow, so it takes me a while to get them out there and distribute my proof of work. And so then I'm at a disadvantage, not because I don't have a lot of GPUs, but because my communication is slow.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely
Speaking of hiccups, since now we're kind of like about a half hour into the show, I wanted to bring up some of the network issues that we experienced last week, and thankfully, we didn't have a situation like Ethereum where they had a Geth parity fork, so we didn't have that issue. But we had a couple of, what was it? We had a few hours of like an unusual amount of orphans going on. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I believe that was on Wednesday or Thursday. I think that was Wednesday, like afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday afternoon. So I don't know if Ninja, do you want? I know you were talking a lot about that and kind of filling everybody in on what's going on.
Yeah, actually, it was Cory that figured out the resolution. I don't know if anybody ever figured out the root cause, but it was simply an upgrade to the latest parity release 1.4.4 that seemed to resolve it. I don't know if there was something in the code that allowed a certain pool to mine blocks that weren't accepted by other pools, and then they basically orphaned out.
I'm sorry, can you, Randall, can you repeat the last half minute, and also can you define what orphans are for people that don't know?
Yeah, sure. First, orphans are basically blocks that are mined that are reorganized over. Basically, the chain, is constantly going through mini forks. Well, not constantly. Hopefully, it's a healthy network and it won't. But there's forks going on all the time, and one, let's say, one block has a timestamp that is mined at a higher level than another block. That block, the lower block, would be accepted, and not the higher block. So the chain may reorganize, and that higher block would simply be orphaned out. Orphans can also be if you have a poorly running client or a mining client that's under some sort of DDoS attack, and it's not able to import the blocks in a decent amount of time in order to find a resolution for it. So in this case, basically what was happening is a pool, I don't even think they were aware, happened to upgrade to parity 1.4.4 and started mining blocks. Unfortunately, that pool held a substantial amount of the network hash rate. So it was pushing a lot of these blocks out there that other pools were trying to mine that could not basically build onto the next block. It wasn't accepted. All I know is it had something to do with the transactions that were in the blocks, and there was something in those transactions that the older versions of the client would not accept and allow to build onto the chain.
I see.
Oh, so they were working on, they were basically wasting their time and they didn't know it. Okay.
Yeah, basically, there was some other strange behavior too. I think Cory's pool experienced it, where if he restarted his client and it started from block 1.
Yeah.
And basically, yeah. Maybe you can explain that a little further, Cory.
Yeah, it was very odd. We started seeing some errors in the parity nodes, and some interesting kind of weird glitches came through. And I was like, interesting. Well, let me restart some of the nodes. And as soon as I restarted it without paying attention, went to my pool, and as you know, Redis records everything. It started back from block 1 and started, going on and on and on and mining, 230. I mined 230 blocks in a matter of minutes, and then they all orphaned out, and so it was the whole orphan thing that happened. And then in turn, I immediately went and, pulled a new parity release and started updating one of the nodes, and did a quick test on it. And I saw that the chain, came up, and as that was going, I started to upgrade all the other nodes, and change the load balancers and move it around. And then we kind of got back on track. It was kind of a lot of cleanup, but, nothing major or substantial, I think, really happened from it.
Okay. Now, so if I understand you correctly, it was the new version of the code that caused this, people running different versions that didn't agree with each other. So is it just that there wasn't enough testing, or nobody thought to check for this issue?
I agree completely. I think any new client releases that we're going to have to vet them out. Right. And instead of, once something comes out, oh, look, new, put it on. No, we need to make sure that, somehow the community basically validates and says, this is what we need to deploy, at least for the large pools.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we just need a best practice for the large pools. Miners are going to mine, they're going to see an update, they're going to change their client, upgrade all the time. But if we all can kind of, try and stay as consistent as possible, it'll be helpful.
Yeah, I also, if you guys, since I brought it up, I was wondering if you guys could maybe expand upon the fork that Ethereum experienced between parity and Geth that happened also. Thankfully, we didn't have to go through that, but just for anyone listening out there that was kind of interested in what happened with all that, if you guys could kind of expand upon it.
I haven't been watching that too closely. All I know is that, parity ended up being the longest chain, and really, I don't agree with the reason why they forked, and all they're doing is introducing new issues. And I hope the ETC doesn't follow the same route and is a little more conservative with its deployments and fixes.
Yeah, we're definitely taking a security first approach as opposed to accessibility. So I think philosophically, Ethereum and ETC have very different, we forked not just in protocol, but we forked in a lot of different ways way back, in the end of July. So
I was gonna say, I think the real reason why I like the Ethereum community as much as I do is for that reason. The fact that we all kind of caught it really quickly and mitigated it right away. I think that was a show of how good our community is and how good ETC is a blockchain to stick with.
For anyone listening out there, Cory and Ninja are saying how great the community is, but it was these two guys on Slack that were hustling a whole ton of info and just putting everything together. So really, for anyone listening out there, for the whole community, I just want to thank you guys, Cory and Ninja, for helping out so much that last Wednesday, and pretty much all the time, but last Wednesday especially, because a little bit pandemonium there for a few hours.
Yeah. I mean, we're all invested in it in some way or shape or form, and we have to all protect our investment.
Yeah, 100%.
Carlo, just real quick, Carlo, to address your question really briefly, the reason for the issue on the Ethereum system was
yes, thank you.
A very subtle difference in, remember the issue with the spam, the denial of service attacks?
Right. Yeah.
It was a subtle difference in how they fixed that problem that caused it.
Oh, I see. So it was fixed one way in parity and then fixed another way in Geth?
Yeah,
and then that's what caused...
There was a corner case with eliminating all that junk that caused it. Yeah. So, and then I had a different question for the miners. Getting back to this idea that, well, how, like me and Randall thought we would just stick with Ethereum because we like it. We think it's so cool, but we don't like the fork. After ETC came about, did you feel like, oh my gosh, now I have the cool technology, and on top of that, they have the right principles. So this is just like too perfect. How could I not be part of this system, this community? That's the way I thought. It was just like a dream come true. Do you guys feel that way?
I mean, yeah, I felt that way.
Yeah, it's the way Ethereum should be. I mean, eventually, if it does reach full-scale IoT, which is the end game for me, it would need to be completely decentralized and not under any centralized control.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have Bitcoin's principles going on. I was at I told you guys earlier I was at Coin Agenda, and there were a lot of the Bitcoin guys over there, and we were getting a lot of support from people that were typically hardcore Bitcoin and didn't even really look at Ethereum. But when I was there, I don't think it was just because I was there. They would have told me, oh, your chain sucks, but they were like, oh, go ETC. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But so the other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, now that we covered kind of background, what's going on now, how you got interested in ETC and all that stuff, and we touched on the network issues that were experienced last week. What do you guys see, I guess, on the horizon as far as ETC, or anything you'd like to see going forward, or suggestions, or just maybe, far off dreams that you have for the platform, and just kind of wild stuff? Just throw it out there. Oh, okay. Let's go to Ninja. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, my end goal is IoT, and when the DAO came about, I was actually very interested, not in the DAO, in Slockit and what they wanted to deploy, and the technology that they offered was very interesting to me. It's just how it was deployed was very badly executed.
You mean giant contract?
Yes, that was bad. All I wanted was the idea with the smart locks and IoT devices. I mean, basically Ethereum with the smart contracts is the control mechanism for mesh networks, for renting out drones. It can do anything once it's perfected. And of course, you assign monetary value to it in order to provide that level of control. So I was very intrigued with that, and that's what I would like to see Ethereum finally reach, those levels. But I think to reach those levels, we need to step back a little. And I think the Ethereum Foundation did a great job with coming out with the greatest, coolest ideas. But I think basically what we're doing is increasing our attack surface, and it's getting so broad that it's like Swiss cheese when they start adding all this new stuff. So I think bring that back, simplify the contract system, basically bring accessibility. Right now we don't have accessibility. I know the stuff, and it's very hard for me to deploy a contract. I mean, I got to install the client. I got to download blockchain. Of course, what am I going to compile it in? If we can make contracts very easily deployed, and somehow get them to be easily deployed on smart devices, then we can start, really introducing blockchain to the real world. Because, right now, Bitcoin's gone a long way, but right now I think the crypto's kind of feeding on itself. I mean, we have exchanges, you got the DICE sites, you got all that stuff, but it's just a snake eating its own tail. And I think with IoT and being able to integrate this blockchain into devices, that let's say, I could have I think one example I had was a cell phone, throwaway cell phone. You put a smart contract on it, you hand it out. When they turn it on, all they have to do is, feed it some Ether or ETC, and they have 10 minutes of time. And then you can pass it on to somebody else. That type of technology to where it provides the monetary value that's decentralized. So you have a reseller of that cell phone, and he may get a percentage of that smart contract that's pre-programmed into.
Yeah, there's all sorts of wild stuff. Cory, do you have any wild, far-off scenarios for IoT or ETC?
Etherninja took the words out of my mouth. I mean, I think with all crypto currently, it's exactly that. It's crypto. The average user doesn't really fully understand how it works or what to do or what I can do with it. I think educating the community and kind of focusing on making Ethereum Classic usable in the real world would benefit the world actually, by breaking it down, or let's say, maybe not necessarily having to be a developer to do something on the blockchain, maybe being able to do something on your own on the blockchain without, having to hire a developer. So I think that's where, and once we could do that, then we can easily get it, like Etherninja said, on smartphones, devices, other companies, corporations. We can decentralize it more by opening it up to, every avenue, and letting everybody have an opportunity to use the blockchain and understand it.
Yeah, I like what he was saying also about, sorry, Christian. I like what he was saying also about kind of, taking 2 steps back to move 3 steps forward. So I think that's important also, just to reduce those attack vectors. And I know Charles and some other people and other developers and Avtar, they talk a lot about like functional programming languages, kind of like Haskell and Haskell and stuff like that.
That's another language, functional language that people talk about for this stuff.
Oh, what's the, Charles talks a lot about Haskell and stuff like that, Christian, writing code in Haskell. What programming language would that be for?
No, I was just going to say Haskell and Scala are 2 big functional languages that people are looking into to help make more secure smart contracts. But I also wanted to thank you guys for making the comment about, we need better educational materials. That's kind of what my little mission in life recently is to kind of make it easier for people to get involved with this technology. And also, just in case anybody doesn't know, but by IoT, we all mean the Internet of Things, basically pushing out the internet to not just run on desktops and smartphones, but also refrigerators, can openers, door locks, everything else. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I was just curious, to make your vision, Randall, come true, because there's a shortage of IPv4 addresses. I assume that that's just going to require IPv6, Internet Protocol version 6, that much sooner to make your vision come true. Is that right?
There's other ways in adding protocols, but yeah, IP version 6, it is deployed in a lot of environments. Actually, I had it on the pool for a little while. IP version 6 is really complicated, actually. I think most of it could probably still be performed with just regular IPv4 or whatever comes next. So I don't think that's so much an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so kind of one far off scenario. I was talking about this with Eric Sumdahal. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but he helps a lot in the ETC community. This was 2 of our kind of way off IoT, ETC future smart contracts. One was, if you can envision like two smart cars with that, driverless smart cars that have an insurance contract built in, and if one crashes into the other, it knows based on the GPS coordinates, like which one was at fault, and it executes a smart contract to pay out, accordingly, and adjust the insurance rates accordingly, and all sorts of wild stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, not to interrupt you, but I'm actually, I really enjoy working with Eric a lot. I've been in a lot of talks with him. As a matter of fact, me and him are actually working on a project. Can't really say too many specifics, but we're working on a project together that could potentially revolutionize and bring more miners to hopefully Ethereum Classic.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So yeah, as soon as more information comes about and we get the prototype and everything ready, I think we'll maybe next couple episodes we'll be announcing it.
Yeah. Feel free to I understand keeping things under wraps, at certain points in time, but I'd love to hear more about it in the future for sure.
Absolutely.
I have a question for the 2 miners. So if somebody listening that says, okay, I think I want to try mining, so maybe they have their NVIDIA graphics card at home or whatever they have, and they decide to try mining tomorrow, what can they expect? I know you said with Bitcoin you could have a whole hillside full of miners and not get a Bitcoin, but so what can the average Joe expect if they put their toe in the water?
For most miners, actually Ethereum isn't it isn't too complicated to start mining Ethereum. Other ones out there can be complex, but depending on if you're going to mine with an AMD chipset or a NVIDIA chipset, AMD really is the preferred video card for Ethereum. Although I have been testing some NVIDIA 1060s, and I'm getting almost the same hash rate as a 470 overclocked. So I would say that finding the right miner is important, whether you're on Linux or Windows, making sure that you're using the right miner. If you want to pay a fee, you can use Claymore's, or you can use Genoil's ETH miner. There's no fees with him. But, the right miner, the right drivers, the right OCL is the most important thing. And, if you're starting to get into it and you're not so sure about it, if you really need help, just come to the Slack community. We're all there to get you started.
What's an OCL?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Christian. Sorry.
What's an OCL for people that don't know?
So to break it down, it's an open, the open source driver that allows video cards to communicate with software, or be able to control your GPUs with a piece of software to break it down, basically.
Okay.
So you've got two versions. You got AMD's version, and you've got NVIDIA's CUDA version.
Okay.
So for a question, I had a question I had for the real mining newbies, and I think this is something I've seen a lot of people look into, and I've never really asked two mining experts about it, and this seems like a great opportunity. MinerGate seems to be something that now I'm not endorsing this in any way. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's something that I've seen very novice or very new miners look into. It's kind of like a gateway, I guess. So I wanted to know what your opinions are on it. Feel free to praise or bash away. I actually don't know much, and I was wondering what you guys, if you have any thoughts on it. I don't know if that's Ninja, if you could jump in on that.
I know very little about MinerGate, but I do know a little bit about just cloud hashing in general. And typically, I shouldn't say this, typically a miner does not profit from cloud hashing unless you have a strategy. Unless you're able to determine, if the difficulty is low or you have some, but for the most part, you're not going to profit too much off of cloud hashing.
Okay, that was kind of the angle of my last question. Can somebody expect to make money if they just jump into this tomorrow as a beginner? Will they see their Ether account balance go up?
I'm sure they will, but I don't know if they're also going to see their electric bill go up, and by the time they do their calculations, they're probably going to end up negative.
Okay.
So I mean, it really depends on how you look at it. Again, like Ninja said, is a strategy if you're going to use these. Like MinerGate is a great platform for a newbie, which kind of touches on kind of what I was getting at is opening up other projects on Ethereum to lure in newbies.
Yeah, I think I was going to say that too. I think MinerGate is obviously something you don't want to stick with as you become more of a veteran in mining, but I think it's a great gateway for someone that's interested in crypto, interested in mining, and kind of wants to, hash away while they learn about what's kind of going on behind the scenes. But I didn't know if they have, some negative things going on behind the scenes that maybe you guys were privy to that I didn't know about. Do you know if they're?
I know they charge high fees, and by the time all said was done, I really didn't end up with anything.
I see, but
I've heard a few things in the rumor mill, but the thing is the crypto industry. There's really two opposing factors. You got hype and you got FUD, and believe it, half of what you hear, none of what you see, right? So, take it with a grain of salt, and it's definitely a good way to get introduced into mining. And there's more than one use case for mining than just trying to profit, because a lot of times if you don't do all your calculations right, you either break even or take a loss, unless you're going to sell off your hardware when you're done. And, one of the use cases is to buy into the crypto without to an exchange. And also it allows you to dollar cost average into your investment. So I personally use it to dollar cost average in. If I feel that the price is going to go up, but I don't want to dump, $500 in all at once and then watch it drop 5% and panic and sell, I could just say, well, I'm just going to dollar cost in, some cloud hash over the next, 4 or 5 days. And then I, basically got into the investment, at different levels.
Right. And also, I guess you can mitigate any slight losses you have from mining. If you mine unprofitably, but you did your research on a particular blockchain or cryptocurrency, as it appreciates in value, those losses can become huge gains. If you did your research properly, I guess, right?
Correct.
I had a question. So you guys are describing the details of how buying and selling at the right time can affect your bottom line, but also hardware-wise, am I correct that there's a lot more to it? There's an art to what you guys do. It's not just get everything set up and then just sit back for 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it took me, oh my gosh, it took me over a year to kind of build out my farm the way until it really started to profit. So my first rig was really expensive to build because I just wanted to build a rig. And, so I went and bought all this stuff and, so one thing I learned, the uglier, the better, the uglier it is, the better it is because it's less money out of your pocket, in buying the right video cards. I went out and bought R9 390Xs, like, oh my God, these things are beasts. Well, here they are, each card drawing 400 watts a piece times, 12. And I get my electric bills, $1,700. And my wife was like, we're getting divorced. So you learn quickly, sell all that stuff off and buy some new cards. I went with some 470s because I can overclock them and I can get, a little bit lower hash rate, but more so the power savings I'm getting on them is amazing versus what I was paying before, and then the new NVIDIA's testing them, I'm maxing out at like 80 watts on these NVIDIAs and I can, build a whole, 4 rigs and use the same amount of power that I was using for 6 cards.
Right. It's like the difference between if you go to like a street race and you see the really nice Porsche, and then I don't know if you've ever seen the street race videos of like a souped up minivan and it takes off like, it does like a quarter mile.
Yeah. And to touch on, that was one of the reasons too, why I kind of came up with Miner Hub was, ultimately I'm trying to make it kind of a centralized place where, miners can come gather and discuss, how to overclock their stuff or, participate and help each other and potentially put up some guides on how to start mining something and turning it into an easy process, for like ETC.
Definitely. What's the full web link for that? We'll put it in the description for you guys watching on YouTube, but what's the full link for that, just to let everybody know?
It's www.minerhub.io. minerhub.io.
Cool. And I know Ninja, you have a pool as well. I don't know if you want to let everybody know about that.
Yeah, sure. It's epool.io.
Okay, cool. So we'll put that in the description for everybody listening on YouTube. I think we've been running just about an hour now. I don't know if there's anything else you want to touch on, Christian.
I was just curious about Chandler is a big miner in China, is a big ETC fan, and I was just curious, why is he such hot stuff in the mining community? Is he just the awesome hardware expert, or Daddy gave him a lot of money to buy a lot of GPUs, or what?
He probably has a very large farm.
He does. Also, he's he speaks a lot over in China as well, and he does a lot of interviews. So he's got not only a lot of hardware mining currently as we speak, but he's also very active in the community, and he's a pretty good guy and everything like that. In the newsletter, actually, there's an interview he did with I think it's cryptocoinnews.com. So you guys want to check that out.
Okay.
Awesome.
So yeah, he's got a big mining farm, a lot of connections, and he's active in the community as well, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
But so I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to touch on or anything like that.
I'm good. I appreciate the time, and hopefully we'll be on more often.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Thank you.
what were you gonna say, Ninja?
I just said thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks again for coming on, guys. Now we've had a developer on, we've had a miner on, we've had another community member. It was Bill last show from the Dash community. So we're getting a lot of great interviews going, and thank you guys for coming on, and we'd love to have you guys on again in the future for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Christian,
Bye-bye.
later. Thanks for helping, and thanks for joining us, guys, tonight. Take
All
care.
right, take care.
Okay. Goodbye.